Good day, and welcome to another edition of the Bamsters Weekend News Roundup. I'm your host, Draconis, and I'll see what I can do to keep from putting you to sleep. Today we'll cover info on a newly announced playable character in Marvel's Avengers, Ubi makes an oopsie, and Bungie lets loose the Banhammer, and even more. If you've caught some of our stuff and haven't yet subscribed to follow along, please do consider doing that. You can give it a thumbs up or like, etc., as it really does go a long way towards helping us out, and we can't thank you enough for doing so. Alright, first up, Ubi makes an oopsie. Microtransactions that showed up in the early access version of or I shouldn't say early access, but the non-poor man's version, the expensive versions where people got into the game a few days earlier than everyone else, had the full load of microtransactions in there, and a lot of those have since been pulled out, but Ubisoft was saying that those items weren't supposed to be in at release. Yeah, I'm thinking they probably weren't supposed to be because, like with other companies we've seen, you wait until after the review cycle to put in all the microtransactions so it doesn't affect your review score. Oops. But no, what they're saying at least, I mean, there is some logic to this, but it still bothers me, and I'm not even completely buying into it. I just think it's an excuse that sounds good, but they're saying that a lot of the microtransactions where you can buy things like skill points, blueprints, upgrade materials, boosters, and all of these other things that basically are shortcuts beyond actually playing the game. So not only do you get to pay for the game, but you can pay a bunch of extra money so you don't have to play the game that you paid for. And it will. Their point was saying is that it was going to catch up new players in the future, so that if you come around in whenever they plan to release this, whether it's in 2 months, 6 months, a year, that you could then not only purchase the game, but you could spend money on all these microtransactions so you could catch up to where your friends were at when they started playing the game at release. Like I said, I'm not entirely buying that. I just think it was probably a good way for them to have an explanation for why all of that stuff was monetized. But man, I don't know. Just shaking my head there. So Bungie released their Banhammer, targeting a bunch of players that were trying to use aiming tools, or aiming cheat tools, as they put it. Now, I mean, come on. It's a fun game, but there's really no need for it. I guess if you're just trying to get through some PvP stuff. But even then, I mean, PvP is meant to be competitive, so I don't know. This kind of stuff always bothers me, because it's like, look, if you can't play the game, then don't play the game. I mean, if you don't want to play it, I shouldn't say if you can't. If you don't want to play the game, then don't. Maybe go over to Ubisoft and purchase some of their microtransactions so you don't have to play it. But no, I don't particularly care for cheating in multiplayer games. I'm fine with it in a single player environment where the only person affected is the person who's playing the game. I'm fine with it in local co-op games where, if you're playing with a group of people and there are things that you just don't want to grind through, you want to just experience the story in the world, like in some kind of RPG, that's fine, because you're not affecting an overarching large group, of folks who would be joining in and playing and affecting their gameplay. So something like this, yeah, go for it. However, I have seen a couple reports. One specifically was talking about using the Discord overlay, and they said they had nothing else running. Now, take with a grain of salt, because it could be true, it might not be true, but things like this do happen. They said that all they had running was the Discord overlay so that they could share gameplay with their friends, and they got a ban. So be careful about running other things, especially things like that Discord overlay, other types of overlays that might try to inject things into the game there, because it could earn you a ban in Destiny 2. And over the weekend at New York Comic Con, Kamala Khan has been announced as a new playable character in Marvel's Avengers. Or, well, I guess I don't want to say new playable, but they're announcing that she will be playable when the game releases. There's a pretty cool trailer. We'll make sure there's a link in the description that you can watch that. And the neat thing about this is it looks like the way that they're writing in the creation, or I should say her backstory, is, if you've followed along from the stuff from E3 and you've seen the initial trailers from Marvel's Avengers game, you'll have seen that they basically have evolved some new technology, some new energy type technology, and they're trying to show that off. And then there's an attack. They get blamed for the attack. Cap dies, quote unquote, dies in the attack, and the Avengers get blamed for that, and then basically go to the Four Winds, and so there's no more Avengers anymore. And the neat thing about this is that the way they're writing in her origin story within the game is that that she gets hit during this entire process with this Terrigen mist, which then gives her her powers. And I guess she spends, several years trying to hide these powers until she finally decides to do something about, what's happened to the Avengers. And she does her own little investigation. And, just watch the trailer. It's kind of cool because then she gets to interact with some of the Avengers, and, she's trying to bring them back together. So, plus it looks like some of the gameplay with her character ought to be kind of goofy and fun, which I think is great in a game like this. And also another one that just came out, that just came across my desk, that I thought looked kind of interesting. Released into early access on Steam on the 3rd of October. It's a game called Shadowy Contracts. This looks like another indie developed title. And it's third-person perspective, where you basically play as like an assassin, it seems. It's a stealth and RPG hybrid, and you go on contracts to, kill people for gold. You can then use the gold to hire and lead mercenaries into battle, which I think is kind of an interesting thing. So now it's not just you, but you've got this whole team of mercenaries that you're taking into battle. So it says there's, at least for the features, it lists that there's over 7 contract and 4 battle levels currently, but they're going to be adding more during the early access period. There's 52 different weapons, 38 different armor sets, different effects and enhancements on the weapons, and again, more to be added during the early access process. So this looks kind of neat. If you're into the stealth and RPG type games, especially things like Origami was a good one. The Old School Thief, which I think I mentioned in last Monday's episode. This could be something that might be right up your alley. But at the very least, go over to the Steam page and check it out. It's on sale right now for 25% off. So during the early access period, they're only asking for $13. And it's 25% off at $9.74 right now. So, and that lasts until the 10th. So you have a few days to go check it out and make a decision as to whether or not you want to support them during early access. And the last little thing I was going to bring up today that came across my desk again was just something about, I don't know if you'll remember the old House of the Dead games, which, I think the only time I've played these were in places like Dave & Buster's and, on arcade screens. I don't think I've ever played any kind of console or PC version of it. I would not be shocked to find out that there were some. I didn't go to look up and see, but they are doing a remake of these games. They're not releasing a whole lot of information yet as far as whether or not, it'll be on, which platform or, when it'll be released. Just that there was, some kind of contract stuff that was in the works that's now been signed. And I guess I'm curious to see how this will turn out. I mean, are they going to do another on-rail shooter? Is this going to be something that's more targeted at console? Or are we going to get something that's like a reimagining of the series and maybe more Resident Evil-like? But, who knows? If you were a fan of those old games or you like zombie shooters, this could be something that is worth keeping an eye on. And, when we have some more news, we'll let you know. But that has been today's Weekend Roundup. So thank you for sticking with us. Greatly appreciate your time and attention. And until next time, this has been Draconis. And I'm out.